Hello and welcome to Misterios Divinos podcast. We're about to open the file on one of the oldest cold cases in human history, a search for a place that exists so vividly in our collective memory, but is completely absent from every modern map.
It all starts right here, with this single line, a location marker, the first clue in a mystery that has puzzled us for millennia. This isn't just a story about a perfect garden. This is the beginning of an investigation into a place called Eden.
And that, right there, is the ultimate question. Was it a real physical place, a dot on the map that's been wiped away by time? Or is this ancient text trying to show us a map of a different kind altogether? In this explainer, we're going to become detectives, following the breadcrumbs to see exactly where they lead.
Okay, let's start where any good investigation does, with the primary evidence. We're looking at a set of geographical clues from the original text, and at first glance, they seem to give us a pretty solid place to start our search.
So, the text lays out 4 rivers. 2 of them you'll recognize immediately, the Tigris and the Euphrates, the lifeblood of ancient Mesopotamia. That seems to anchor our whole search in the real world, right? But the other 2? The Pishon and the Gihon, they're like phantoms. And what in the world does it mean that a single river parts into 4? This right here is the heart of the whole geographical puzzle.
Believe it or not, the entire physical search for Eden could hinge on the meaning of a single Hebrew word, Rosh. It's translated as heads when describing the rivers. But Rosh can mean 2 totally different things. Does it mean the source, where the rivers begin, way up in the mountains? Or does it mean a junction, where rivers meet and flow together? This one word creates 2 completely competing theories, sending search parties in opposite directions.
And this is so critical because these 2 interpretations, they don't just tweak the map a little bit. They create 2 fundamentally different maps for finding Eden. One sends us looking to the mountains, the other sends us looking toward the sea. So our investigation splits into 2 distinct paths. Over on the left, you've got the source theory. This one places Eden way up in the mountains of what is now Turkey and Iran. Why? Because that's where the Tigris and Euphrates originate. But on the right, you've got the mouth theory, which argues we should be looking at the other end, near the Persian Gulf, where these rivers would have once converged into a massive delta.
Now, investigators have followed both of these trails, and it's led them to propose some very specific locations. We're going to take a look at 3 of the most prominent candidates, and we're going to see how they stack up based on a really fascinating academic study that tried to score them against the evidence.
And this is where it gets really fun. A 2023 study actually tried to quantify all this. Researchers took 3 proposed locations and scored them across 4 key areas: the geography, the archaeology, local place names, and parallels in other ancient texts. They gave each one a percentage score for how well it matched the biblical story.
And once they averaged all the scores, wow, a pretty surprising frontrunner emerged. The traditional candidates that we've been talking about, they scored just 15 and 53%, but a third, totally unexpected location scored a remarkable 72%. Let's take a look at each one.
First up is the favorite from the source theory, the area around Lake Van in Turkey, and you can see why it's a compelling idea. I mean, it's a mountainous region where the Tigris, the Euphrates, and 2 other major rivers, the Aras and the Uzan, all have their headwaters.
Then, the mouth theory takes us south to Kurna in Iraq, right in the heart of Mesopotamia. This is that fertile plain where the Tigris and Euphrates actually meet. The idea here is that the Pishon and Gihon were other ancient rivers or maybe even canals that joined them there.
And finally, we have the dark horse, the candidate that scored highest in the study, Pushkar, India. Now, this seems to come out of left field, but the research points to some really remarkable geographical parallels. You have 4 rivers flowing out from the area, and get this, one of those rivers, the Sagramati, makes a distinct circular path, almost exactly like the Bible describes the Pishon encompassing the land of Havilah.
So the geographical investigation is pointing to some pretty wild possibilities. But just as that trail seems to be getting warm, some scholars have suggested we've been using the wrong kind of map this whole time. They've proposed a radical shift in the investigation.
What if Eden wasn't a country you could find on a map, but was actually a blueprint? I mean, what if the descriptions in Genesis are not about geography at all, but about sacred architecture? This theory suggests that Eden is a symbolic model of a temple.
In this model, you see, the garden is structured with 3 zones of increasing holiness, just like ancient temples, moving from the outside world into the garden and then deeper toward its center. It's like you're ascending to a holier space, getting closer to the presence of God.
It suggests the story is less about a location and more about the architecture of how humanity approaches the divine.
Okay, so what about the two famous trees? Well, in this temple model, they have specific jobs. The tree of life, that's in the absolute center, the Holy of Holies, symbolizing the very presence of God. The tree of knowledge, then, stands before it, like a boundary, a sacred barrier. One ancient scholar even called it the veil for the sanctuary.
And this isn't just some modern theory. We can actually see this idea in ancient art. Look at this temple mosaic. It shows the entrance to a sacred space, and there's a veil suspended between two columns that look just like trees. This whole idea of trees guarding a sacred entrance, it's a visual language you find all across the ancient Near East.
So, after all this, where does our investigation leave us? We've followed clues across the globe, from the mountains of Turkey to the plains of India, and we've also journeyed deep into the symbolic architecture of the ancient mind.
It seems the search has revealed not just one answer, but at least 3 powerful ways to understand Eden. It could be a literal place, still out there, waiting to be found. It could be a symbolic map of sacred space, teaching us how to approach the divine. Or it could be a foundational story, explaining our place in the cosmos.
But maybe these ideas don't have to fight with each other. As this quote suggests, the spiritual power of the garden as a symbol, well, that would only be strengthened, not weakened if we actually discovered its physical counterpart. The map and the territory can both be real.
And so our investigation closes with a new question. We've always framed the search for Eden as this hunt for a lost world outside of ourselves. But what if its real purpose is to give us a map for the world within us? Maybe the enduring power of the story isn't about where humanity began, but about helping each of us understand where we're going.
If you found this journey as intriguing as I did, please subscribe and leave a like. And I'd love to know what you think, so tell me what you found most fascinating down in the comments and share this with others who love a good mystery. Thank you for joining me.